Well, Coach, here we are on the verge of another season. You're first in charge of this program. We were talking a little bit off camera about, some of the stuff that y'all been going through. I mean, what's this preseason been like for you? I mean, I know it's got to be tough enough just, as your first gig in charge. Talk about kind of what you've been dealing with.
Well, the Men of Summer stuff really has been easy. Because we've had it, we're going to continue to do it. We found it's what helps our program out, and a lot of times distinguish us from other people. But it's now the other things that are behind the scenes that as an assistant you didn't have to deal with. The fundraising, the booster club meetings, dealing with parents, maybe dealing with situations that you never had to deal with. That now I'm finding as a head coach. Wow, there's a lot more to it than what most people expect. They just think it looks all cool and fancy, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind that you just don't realize until you sit in the chair.
What, talk about just kind of obviously continuity, not just Men of Summer, but continuity for the program in general was kind of a big part of you getting the job, was it not?
That is correct.
Talk about how you want to keep things going or changes that you're making.
Well, one of the things that I think is that no matter what we do, we've been successful with a set of core values. This is how we're going to run the program in terms of, our workouts, the way we're going to work out. What is most important to our program. When we look at things, we tell everybody, hey, it's going to be faith, family, school, football. And we need to try to keep it in that perspective. And those are the things I believe that have helped us be successful. Are there some things that I've jumped outside the box on? Sure. Our Men of Summer program has been in existence. We've done it the same way pretty much since we stepped on campus here. We have what we call it a basic training period, where we do an hour on the field. We do an hour on the field of speed and agility. We do an hour in the weight room, and then we do an hour of football. Yeah. But we'll take 15 minutes at the end of all of it, and we really work some type of mental training with our kids. When we first started doing it was a true military basic training, 15 minutes just doing some of the stuff. Then we started to expand, and we'd maybe do sprints some days, some 110s, and this year I took some of what I felt was necessary. Being a young team, I needed to work on our mental aspect, our mental toughness. And we installed drills in those 15 minutes that would really test our kids' mental toughness, and we'd never done them before. There might be days where I just blow the whistle at the end of a session and go, all right, now the 15 minutes is now, instead of at the end. So, I look at a football game. Things don't always go the way you expect them to. So kids have to learn to adapt to change. Something changed real quick. So either a team's going to adapt well, or they're going to allow that change. Sudden change. You fumble the ball, is the defense going to step up? So we've really worked on a lot of that this summer. So those are just some of the changes when it comes to football. Some of the things we've done in terms of organization, fundraising. I've tried some things to try to amp it up a little bit, and those have been pretty successful. So I've got to be able to put a little bit of my fingerprints on it. So that's, those are the things I feel I can step outside and do. But I don't want to touch the core of who we are.
Just a second. This is just a little off. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
That's no worries. That's what post-production's for.
That's right, baby. You can slide it over and make it a little bit bigger. You can choose that little.
That's right.
Make the picture a little bigger. Bump it over. Nobody will ever know, except for my head. The ball's probably a little.
There we go. There we go.
Obviously, as we have mentioned, or off camera, I mean, you got a lot of starters to replace here. I mean, almost an entire team's worth.
Yes.
That's obviously going to be very difficult. But when you have a program the way that y'all have, how many of these kids are kind of ready to step into starting roles now?
Well, I'll be honest with you, when you have to replace 21 and 22, it's more of a challenge now. It becomes a lot more people start saying, I've got an opportunity to play. So more so that it becomes more of a challenge at each position versus a kid who's able to step up and play. You know, last year, because our senior depth was so large, that a lot of your backups were seniors. So that has kind of hurt us a little bit in that aspect, because a lot of these kids really didn't get a whole lot of Friday night playing time because they were number threes. So, you know, that's just something that we're working on. That's why I really wanted to make sure we had 2 scrimmages, because I felt like we'd get more out of 2 scrimmages than 4 days of offense and 4 days of defense in the spring. We did a not a 7-on-7, but an 11-on-11 semi-full contact camp, FCA camp, you know, and you can do everything but basically tackle a guy to the ground. So we're able to get, you know, 8 half games in there. So, you know, really for me, just getting these kids experience is huge.
What, obviously, you know, you're going to replace a number of key guys, Andrew Smith being one of them. Talk about that quarterback position. Who's stepping into that role now?
Well, that's a good question, to be honest with you. We had kind of felt like going into the season that Drew Atha had a very good chance at being the starter. And then Malik Gill was kind of pushing him. As the summer progressed, Drew started to labor a little bit in his running, and you know, we thought maybe it was related to his other injury where he had a hip injury. He was out for a portion of the baseball season. But we found out that he's got microfiber tears in his Achilles, stress fracture in his foot. So he's been in a boot for probably the last 5 weeks. Could be in it for another 5 or 6 weeks. Malik, you know, we ended up having to move him out to a receiver. So about 4 or 5 practices ago, I pulled a kid and basically said, I need you to play quarterback. He wasn't even a quarterback. He was a running back. And he's a sophomore, but he's really coming along well right now. His name's Maddox Turner. And I think he's commanded respect already on the field, which is tough to do when you're not sure about what you're doing. But he's picked that aspect up, which to me is key. As being a quarterback, you've got to demand the respect of the people in your huddle. So he's done that, and then he's picked up the offense little by little every day. Meets with me after practice. So replacing Andrew is not going to happen, but being able to have somebody to plug in and do what they can do is going to be huge.
What, you know, and it obviously goes beyond just replacing Andrew. Who are some of the other guys that you're looking to step up and fill leadership roles on this team?
You know, we've got a big guy in the backfield, Austin Perry. Austin started stepping up late in the season last year as a running back. He's about 6'4", 220. Very tall running back, but he's also extremely physical, tough in the weight room, and he's really starting to learn the leadership roles. Bobby Mendenhall. Bobby Epps was a few years ago. Bobby Mendenhall, another kid running back, as well as a linebacker, senior who's picked up in there and is kind of working to take up leadership role. Hayden Hughes, who is our only returning starter. He played center for us last year, did a great job at center. I expect him to be even more tough this year. He's just very quick. And then we've got a few other seniors like Michael Strickland, guys that are starting to understand their role and being able to adapt to it. It's tough when you weren't there before, you know?
Yeah.
When now all of a sudden now everything's on your shoulders. But they're starting to come along well. So
Talk about, you know, as far as offensively, defensively, are y'all going to look pretty similar to what you've looked in the past? How do y'all want to line up?
Offensively and defensively, we're still going to line up the same way we have. We're going to line up in a wishbone. We're going to use, and regardless of whether it was Andrew Smith at quarterback or Drew Atha at quarterback, we're going to use the strengths of those kids to make some adaptations. You know, Andrew was a great runner. So what do we want to do? We want to put the ball in Andrew's hands and let him run it. Drew actually throws it well, and he runs well, but he throws it much more accurate. So we're going to probably do a few different things a little bit in the passing game. We may throw a lot more shorter 90-game stuff, which we hadn't done in several years, but here's a kid who can throw it. We've put some kids outside that can put some pressure on people with Micah Strickland and Sam Jackson. So offensively, you know, not that we're going to throw it a ton, But if we're going to spread people out, I want to make them defend the guys on the outside. If those defensively, we're still going to be in a 3-4. We're going to probably stun a little bit more than what we have in the past. And I think you're going to see a little bit more excitement. Not that the kids in the past weren't, but Coach Cunningham's bringing a new level of excitement to the kids. The practices are exciting to watch. And he's brought some new drills that have just kind of brought a different touch to our defense. So,
what another new thing, you've got a new region that y'all are playing.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've got one of the marquee programs in the entire country in that region. But outside of Buford, what do you know about this region? What's it going to line up like?
I'm going to tell you, it's a difficult region. I don't know that most people realize, as far as I'm concerned, it may be one of the toughest 4A regions in the state. If you look at it from top to bottom, just our schedule, 10 games, we're looking at 9 playoff teams in 10 games, which is very difficult. Monroe area, I believe, has been in the Elite 8 2 or 3 times in the last 3 years. North Oconee, we know that they've been very strong for years, and then they've got K1 Bryant, who's probably the top, if not one of the top 5 backs in the state. Chestatee has been very successful in that region year in and year out. White County now moves up, and they may have the best football team they've had in the history of that school coming in this year. I expect big things from them, extreme, and also a huge senior class. You're talking, I think, 25 or more kids. So ultimately, that region, outside of Buford, is going to be tough. You're going to have a lot of teams fighting for spots, and I think you're going to find that even a good team is going to be left out of playoffs. Good teams are going to be left out. So it's a week in and week out, and I tell our kids it's playoffs every Friday night.
What as a coach, as a player, you kind of enjoy. I know it's tough, but you get a little spark out of playing in a region like that.
To be honest with you, when I first thought about it, I'm thinking to myself, man, this is my first head coaching job. Do I really want to take on this task? I mean, first of all, going in and following Coach Christmas. That's not an easy person to follow. I'm blessed the fact that we're very good friends and we talk weekly. He gives me pointers and some things like that, and he's there to encourage me. But I felt like, if I'm going to ask, as a coach, if I'm going to ask my players to give me their heart, and if I were willing to walk out the back door on something that was a challenge, then I'm never going to be a very good coach. So I can't be two-faced in that or hypocritical and say, hey, I need you to do this, but I'm not willing to do that. It's exciting in a way to have a challenge and know that every Friday night we as coaches got to be on top of our game, and our kids have to be on top of the game. And I just look at some of the stuff we did in that FCA camp. We were challenged with some very, very big teams, and I saw the fight in our kids, and I was very encouraged by what I saw. I mean, we had to play Norcross's second team, we had to play East Paulding, we had to play South Cobb. To go ahead and go against those guys and actually be pretty successful in the situations that we were in on the field was very encouraging.
What the kids on this team, how pumped up are they to show that they're part of the North Hall tradition that y'all have built here?
Very much so. The one thing that I try to tell our kids, I said, look, man, first of all, that people keep throwing the word rebuild at you. And I said, guys, what that basically saying is they're people that say, hey, you guys are in a rebuilding year. What they're really saying is we don't expect you to be very good. That's what they're saying. And once they understood that, I think they're taking it as a chip on their shoulder and using it as, okay, well, hey, we're not rebuilding. We're going to show people that we're ready to play. So they're real pumped up, and I think they're using some of that as, I don't want to use as an advantage, but it's a motivation. And I think that's kind of exciting for me to see that they're willing to look at what the world is thinking and go, I never thought of it that way. It's just a word we throw around, but that's really what they're saying is they don't expect much out of you guys. So
and then finally just you mentioned their excitement. Talk about your excitement. I mean, with at this juncture, I mean, as you mentioned, all these factors coming in, and you get this opportunity. How excited are you right now?
It's a mix of emotions. I'm real excited, to be honest with you. I can't wait for Friday nights, but at the same time, it's like, whew, man, there's no breathing room. There's no ability to relax any given Friday night. So part of that's like, it makes you a little nervous as a coach, to be honest with you, when it's your first time to be able to lead these guys. So it's a mix of emotions. I mean, there's the high part of, hey, man, I'm really excited to see what we can do together. And then there's that, I don't want to say low part, but there's that nervous side of you where you're like, man, I got a big gig to follow. But if we just stick to who we are and what we do and our core values, I believe everything's going to take care of itself.
All right, Coach. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. Good luck on the season.
Thank you, Mark.